Greetings, everybody. We are back again for our second portion of the evening here. Like Dennis was jumping on there, we are looking at the CRKT Lanny for our second review of the evening. Yeah, I am.
Indeed. Where's Joe's score?
It
So I can
is
mock him.
coming up here. He gave it a 72. C plus.
Okay, it's not unreasonable.
If one of you sons of bitches says across the board on this particular score, I'm gonna slap some. Like
You
coming
can't,
through the
because
street.
there's a 6 and a 5 in there. But
Yeah,
other than
well,
those, across
On,
the board,
on the
no,
objective
no,
side, it's
not
across the board. It's a
no,
7s and 8s.
No. Where's the one that turns me into a cat? Just like it's.
you can only do that one in court, I hear.
I object. I object, Your Honor.
No one here is honorable.
I'm trying to see if there's anything that I disagree with strongly.
No.
And no, it's a good score. It's
Ergonomic preference being a 5 dips it down kind of low. Material choice, it's no. Okay, so it's stainless steel and HCR, right?
I think it's aluminum and 8CR, isn't it?
To the interwebs.
Oh yeah, I have it up. 60-61 aluminum.
Okay.
Oh, is it now?
Blam.
Okay.
So there, take that.
But it's an 813 or an 814. I don't know. Stuffing some things.
It is an 813.
Okay. All right. So yeah, material choice. I can understand why he threw up a 6 on that.
Yep. And I think his ergonomic preference issue is the same that I'm going to bring up in my review. So
I think it's probably the same that everyone's going to bring up. We might as well dabble on it.
It's true. It's slippery.
That's some bitch wanting to slip right out your hand.
Yeah. It's a weird texture.
And it's an assisted knife, and it's got a pretty good action to it. So it almost wants to jump out of your hand, too.
Mm-hmm.
If you worked in a Vaseline factory, you've got to question your lifestyle. You should probably also not have this knife.
Indeed.
I like the idea that you think there's just a Vaseline factory somewhere. That can't possibly be a thing, right? I refuse.
Hey, look. Paul's score's up on page to talk about.
All right, we're gonna just dive right over. Yeah.
So, we are.
The big complaint being that the handle should be slippery.
That was weird.
Paul has ghosts.
Are the robots coming to get you?
No, there was a very loud beeping. I thought the fire alarm was going to go off. Quite honestly,
robots are coming.
There you
robots.
Go.
That's
that's fair. For my score, I gave it a 76, which is a B minus, which is just a few points higher than Joe's. On the cost versus material side of things, I gave it a 7 because you are paying more in this case for this knife than the IBI and other D2 offerings that they have, because it's just 8CR and it's an aluminum handle. It's nicer than a stainless steel handle as far as like material costs and things like that. But there are better deals in the market. As far as fit and finish, I struggled again to find flaws with the finish on this thing. Really nice rounded corners all the way around. Nice bright blues on all the hardware. Even the stop pin, they blued. So nice theme that they kept with all the way around. Lock up and actuation, I gave it a 9 because it fires very nicely. It's IKBS and assist, so there's not a chance that this thing's not going to fire fully every time you hit that flipper. On the personal side of things, I gave it a 5 for material choice because 8 CR always gets a fairly low score for me just by default. I'm a picky bitch. Um, it is what it is. Aesthetics, I really like the way this thing looks, and I think I'm coming to the plate with this a little bit more quickly than Dennis gets a chance to. But there's a like mid-tech version of this by Liong Mah that I really want because of how nice this knife is and the aesthetics of it.
I will find it and I will own it, and we'll get there. We'll get there in my review. Yeah.
But so on the low side, on the personal side of things, again, it's the ergonomic preference was a 6 because I feel like if I am not crazy careful, I'm going to drop the thing on my foot or have it slide into my hand and cut all my tendons or something. Like, it's a slick son of a bitch. And then I gave it a proper enthusiasm score, it's somewhere between 5 and 7.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean 7.
It is up there. Yeah. Now, the enthusiasm being a 7. Why so high? Just aesthetically? Is that what
aesthetically, the enthusiasm is higher because this led me down a rabbit hole to find out about the Liong Mah design that I now want to get my hands on.
Which would probably just lead into my score, I guess, is the best thing to do in this particular situation. Because
might as well.
Well, we were talking about the Liong Mah design. I think it's a mid-tech, semi-custom, whatever you want to call it, type of thing, right? And there's a micarta version out there with some bronze accents. And then the other big thing that I'll give it credit for is even the mid-tech version actually has lefty-friendly options. It's got a plate just like this one does, just like a Manly Wasp does, for very inexpensive that you can swap out and make it lefty-friendly, right? So my score material-wise... 8CR and aluminum. Aluminum, I probably would have actually thrown up an 8 rather than stainless steel because I actually thought it was a stainless steel handle. I might have thrown an 8 knowing that it was aluminum. But yeah, fit and finish, I didn't see anything necessarily wrong with this knife. Everything looked the way it should. I didn't inspect the bluing like I did on the Ritual and notice any sort of like drip, whatever type idea.
I did because of your review and was impressed with it.
Fair enough. Yeah. Cutting ability, I gave it a 7 because, like, if you look at this thing, yes, it's hollow ground, and really nicely hollow ground. Again, the aesthetics come into play for me. But if you look at the spine on this thing, this is a thick son of a bitch as far as the knife goes. Like, she's a bit of a tank, right? So, and the lockup and actuation, I gave an 8 because I don't know. It reminded me of my Barrage more than anything else. It fired really, like positively when I opened it, more so than the other assisted on bearing knife options that we got to play with the new CRKT stuff. I think this one sprang to definitely the like most positive out of all of them, right? So material choice, I don't know. Again, I probably would have scored it a 5 or a 6 on materials, knowing that it was aluminum rather than stainless steel, but it is what it is. So it got a 4 because I'm a picky bitch too, like Paul dabbled on.
Yeah.
The Asterix is again what we dabbled on already, the slippery. Ergonomically on the personal side of things, I probably would have given this a 10. It was the perfect size, which made me again look into the mid-techs and see what was out there. The micarta, the carbon fibers. I'm least interested into the hammered titanium, which is the copy that this one is after. Compared to some of the other ones that are actually out there, there's some pretty nice offerings, right? And lastly,
fiber is really nice.
The enthusiasm, because Paul put it at a 7, I had to balance it out for myself, and I'm going to put it at a 5. So the average is still a good Pokey factor average, right? Like that's what he had. But for me, again, the enthusiasm goes back into last week's episode about where this could lead for CRKT, what this could mean for them in the future. Knife designs that could maybe have some 1227 or some D2 or whatever for not that much more of a price point, right? So yeah.
Indeed.
I guess it's on to me.
I don't know why, but apparently Ben's going to be killed in his sleep by Nigel.
Only if he keeps fucking with me like that.
There you
I see. Well, you haven't done your curse this week, so you could just make it a Ben related.
I could just make it me hunting you down related.
I will Freddy Krueger you for 9 movies.
I don't think I have that sort of stamina. I don't have that sort of commitment. 9 movies, man, and that's too much work. So yeah.
That's fair.
I gave it a 65, a C minus. Yeah, it's all right. Doesn't really do it for me. Cost versus materials, I gave it a 6 because, and especially compared to the EB, which we just scored as well, for what you get for this guy, especially the steel, for the price point that it is, it's definitely jumping up into the high side for me. Fit and finish. Paul mentioned that all the corners were really nicely handled or rounded. On the handle, yes. The spine on that thing is so sharp. Like, even along in the scallops on the jimping, like, I thought I would cheese grater my thumb on it, sort of thing. Like, I did not like it. Cutting ability, I gave it an 8, because, yep, definitely very, very slicey and has a nice hollow to it, but like Dennis mentioned, it is a very thick stock to it. So, half the blade cuts nicely, and then you get the wedge factor. Ergonomic execution, gave it an 8, because probably in that very easy for most people to grab a size, a little small for the extra larges, but did not a point or two because of that slippy factor from that texture that they put on it there. And lockup and actuation, yeah, that thing fires crisp. That is a very, very snappy knife. Material choice. What was that?
I just said snappy.
Snappy.
Yeah.
Material choice, gave it a 6 because, yeah, mediocre CR steel and aluminum handles. Yeah, whatever. Aesthetics, gave it a 6 as well because I like the silhouette and the overall lines of it, but that texture adds to the dislike of the aesthetics for me, that slippy sort of texture. And I don't like that sparkle that it gets. Like, it looks kind of garish to me. Do not enjoy it. Pocket ergos,
I wonder if that would be a difference between the titanium mid-tech, because it's titanium rather than an aluminum or a stainless steel or whatever.
Well, and I think
I'm wondering,
it's a painted coating on the surface that has like actual sparkle in it too.
There's some sort of
there
flake.
seems to be a glitter flake to it. Yeah.
Weird.
For sure.
Yeah, don't like it. Ergonomic or pocket ergo, gave it the 7 because nice that they did the ambidextrous. Putting that little plate in there is awesome. Sits pretty good in the pocket, but it is a fairly thick handled knife, so it does fill like side to side, not front to back. Ergonomic preference, I gave it a 6 because it's decent sort of size, but it gets into that weird half finger grip for me. And then enthusiasm, I gave it a 4 because, yeah, this doesn't do it for me. It's weird texture on it, mediocre steel. Yeah.
I want the mid tech. I don't think I said it enough yet. I want the mid tech.
Yeah, there is pictures of the mid-tech out there that are just super fancy. Yeah. And Paul,
I've been waiting for Mr. Fisk to get mad at us for saying that word.
Well, it's not like it's a midwife.
Um, so, like, I think it's a knife that's going to appeal to people. I think people are going to like it on the shelf. They're going to want to get it in hand. And I worry that they're going to get it in hand and go, oh, damn, that's
Yeah.
slick.
I've already noticed that
Yeah.
be a reaction that people have had. Yeah.
Yeah.
One
There's
thing.
Go ahead.
One thing that I didn't
No, no,
dabble on as far as aesthetics, I do enjoy that they did all the hardware, like anodized all the hardware, or patinaed it or whatever. And I know it's probably an issue of actually getting the color in there, but I don't like the fact that like the inside of the holes and the screws are orange. Let me see if I can.
Or what, sorry?
Or orange.
They're kind of, yeah, they got a different color to them instead
Yeah.
of being true inside the screw holes themselves.
And I do appreciate that it's consistent and it's like all of them are like that. It just like I find it a little jarring visually.
See, I look at it, I like titanium anodizing where there's a bunch of colors kind of like weaving in and out with each other. So I dig it for that reason.
Yeah.
But I can see where the one thing that I found, not that I didn't like, but that I wish was a little more even, is the blue backspacer compared to the screws. Because I think it's a different finish. I think it's like a titanium coating on screws and then getting anodized versus aluminum anodizing for the backspacer.
Like it has the same texture that the handle has, that weird sparkly texture.
Yeah, and it's blues in the same like family, but they're not the same color, and I wish they were the same color.
Indeed. So yeah.
I got the reaction I was looking for in chat. Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Midtex, trade-in value. What are all things that don't actually exist? So that's a thing.
All right, Mr. Calculator.
He's a man of science.
No, I'm referring to you. So we can get this thing scored up and put on the board.
Get the average.
I probably shouldn't have closed that. Eh?
Way to go.
I got her back open again. All right.
Huzzah.
Scores.
We got a 65.
65.
70.
70. 70.
71.
71. Okay.
76 and 72.
That's a even 71.
Cool. Come here, window.
Oh, it beat out the Gobi. Oh, Jimmy.
Close enough.
I'm impressed.
Didn't beat out the obium.
Alrighty, let's carefully move things off my lap so I don't fuck things up again. Yeah. So this feels really weirdly deja vu-ish, as it beat out the place that it took by one whole point, like the last knife we reviewed.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Our board's getting a bit full. That's cool.
It is. Yeah, what am I trying to say? I think I like the Lanny. I like the lines of it.
No.
I just wish there was like that same knife with G10 and D2 from CRKT, I'd be pretty damn excited about.
Mhm.
Even as an assisted knife, I don't really like assisted knives.
I'm not a big assisted fan either, but I will admit, as soon as this thing fired out, it gave me that same reaction that a barrage does, where you're just
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, that thing
There you
snapped like a son of a bitch!" Like it's
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I will say that that actually impressed me quite a bit. And then the lines of it, as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Is this what a like nicer Liong Mah design one looks like?" All right, like let's check some out and see what we can find. And yeah, sure
Mhm.
enough, there was 3 or 4 versions that really appealed, right? So
Definitely.
the bluing is suspect on a lot of CRKT stuff. I'm really curious what their bluing is. It's probably the same as Rook, but you're not paying a premium for it from that company compared to CRKT, which you probably are paying a little bit of a premium because they did it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, that pocket clip is the exact same color as the Rook pocket clips. They are
Mhm.
identical,
wow,
which makes me wonder.
it's hard to keep the heat treatment soft at the same time they're trying to anodize them that color, right? Like it's a really tricky process.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
If you're not careful, they can just harden up on you and maybe actually be the proper HRC.
What
Anyway,
was it? Riyadh that built the Liong Mah that we're talking about? Is
Yeah.
it is it still the Lanny?
no,
I don't know, but ask Mr. Fisk in
no.
the comments.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think they made some mod designs that weren't the Lanny,
Okay.
but there is actually a company called Liong Mah Designs that makes the Lanny, or at least the ones that I was doing homework on, right? So,
Right.
So if
and I'm
if
not.
mid tech is not the right word, is it just semi production, like you would call a?
I don't know. I don't know if Riat maybe made those for the Liong Mah designs. That would be
There you go.
something that, yeah,
Which I think Mr. Fisk is indicating in chat actually.
one of those things going on. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Fair enough.
that's kind of like Knives making the Garrett Bull Chamois.
something, something like that. Yeah.
Same kind of idea, right? It's a production knife. Fair enough. It's a production knife, but it's a very nice looking production knife, and it tickles me in a way that a Chavez knife does.
It would go in
Dirty.
the EDC box if I owned one,
Yeah.
right in the box.
Yeah,
And I
but
know what knife I would take out, and it's a shame. But anyway,
You just get a bigger box, man. That's just how you do it.
I've been looking at bigger boxes. I'm always on the hunt for a bigger box, something
yeah,
that
you
can
are.
contain it all. Well, it's better than 2 boxes. Well, sometimes 2 boxes is okay sometimes.
So when do we normally go on break again?
It's not
right
for a
about
while.
now.
Well, it doesn't come-
Yeah, no, it seems
we
like a good
buzzed through
place.
that. Okay, so here's the thing: is without Joe to like 3 hours later us. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like the fact that Joe is 20 minutes of our conversation.
at least 8 minutes of that said conversation for sure.
Yep.
And then Nigel's got at least 2 minutes of editing some good stuff in there while he does it, right? Like it's so.
Sometimes, yeah, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, do we want to
So
call that for break, or do we have anything else to ramble about for a bit here?
that's what I was just about to ask.
Well, CRKT in general, I think they've been putting on a pretty good show. I know Nigel had some disputes on the ritual last week. None of us scored it high. But this guy here, I think everyone kind of gave some honest scores for the most part. Yeah.
I really like that Eevee.
I had a hard time scoring the Eevee higher than the Lanny just because I like the Lanny design so much. But there's so much more to it than that. And I think the Eevee, because of the rounded G10, like really nicely rounded G10 too, like I can understand the Kubiton aspect when you're deploying it. The blade fits really seamlessly Whereas the Lanny, like you were talking about, the sharp spine, like yeah, it definitely did have a sharp spine on it. But I was more impressed with the thickness of the Lanny and how centered CRKT actually made that knife, because there was a very small room for error. And CRKT is not necessarily the company that is like bang on their fit and finish and centering. And I mean, like they're right in there with the Benchmade when it comes to like, yeah, that knife's not centered, right? So,
but maybe like Benchmade, they are recognizing their area of improvement needed.
But there's also some Benchmade designs that have very small room for error as well. Like the Tengu. The Tengu Flipper has a very small room for error, and they seem to have got those ones figured out because they know that they don't have a tolerance that can leave the factory, right? So I think this is also one of those situations where if it was off in any way, it would scrape, and then QC would hopefully catch it before it did actually start to scrape. Hopefully.
You don't want it to scrape.
Wow. How hard?
Don't kink shame.
There's safe words.
You know we're still live, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, even if we weren't, the audio would still be going, so they would have picked that up anyway, right? Like it's.
So yeah, I think we should head on to break.
I think
we're getting into pretty good rambling territory.
Judgmental Joe. We all miss. Yeah.
We all miss Judgmental Joe.
We will head on off here for a few minutes and give you some time to lament your loss of no Joe tonight. Head on out and empty your bladders and refill your drinks in the appropriate orders, and we shall return shortly with everyone.
We don't need